So as we continue our series Focus on Women, one question that has been asked through the ages is, can we have it all? Can we do all the things expected of us and become leaders in our field? Or is it just too much to expect? I'm Lynn Doyle, continuing the discussion about women and leadership. And as always, we invite you to be part of the debate. Here's the question. Can women have it all? Can they be leaders without sacrificing other things important to them? Or do women need to make tough choices that men don't have to make? If you want to tell us what you think, you can email me directly at lynn@lynndoyle.net. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I'm going to turn to Natalie because she's about to come out of her seat trying to answer the question, can we have it all?
Yes, I think we can have it all. But I think that we can't have it all at one time.
Oh,
we can have it all over a lifetime. So if a part of your lifetime is raising a family and working in the home, like Leslie says, every woman works. If a part of your lifetime is working outside of the home, if a part of your lifetime is raising your kids or being on that treadmill at work, yes, you can have it all, but over a lifetime.
That's a great observation. It was worth waiting the 2 minutes for. Absolutely, and everybody is applauding it.
I was going to say, I think you could tell from the applause in the background that we all agree. And I think the great thing about living today is that women do have choices.
Yes.
And it's hard on the one hand because you see so many women who are so successful, so you can torture yourself in thinking that you know
I should be there.
I got to hurry up and get on the fast track. But I think if you can just be true to yourself and decide what works for me, set your own goals.
Right.
And decide what path is going to take you there.
Do you think that women should have a so-called leadership track which they try to follow?
Not necessarily. I mean, being a leader isn't important in the traditional sense, isn't necessarily important to
I disagree a little
everyone.
bit. I wouldn't call it a track, but I would call it a path. I think that women should be very intentional about the direction they want to take and the path that they want to take. And
if they want to be a leader, though, I mean, but I don't think all women necessarily want to be a leader. I mean, if the world were all leaders and there weren't some followers.
Well, I think it's more of a track of finding your happiness and living within your purpose and expectations. So for me, when I had my twins, I was really in conflict because I had worked so hard to define myself professionally, and then all of a sudden I was like, okay, I'm a mom, I'm a business, what exactly am I? And I struggle with trying to redefine myself and then trying to be this perfect, what the society imposed as what a perfect mom was supposed to be, and then a businesswoman who was trying to have a leadership path. And I finally gave up normal. What's normal to everyone else in my community is not what's normal for me, and it's not probably what's going to be normal for my family. My daughters don't know a 9-to-5 mom because that's what I have never been. So that would not be normal for them. And I think giving up normal and creating your own normal and expectation that makes you and your family happy is what's important.
You know, I'm interested to hear your observations on this, and you'll know why in a second. I grew up in what I called the Clairol age, where there would be these commercials where they were showing the beautiful woman with the Clairol hair, and she had it all. You know, she played the piano with her child, and then she was, you know, out with the briefcase, and then she had romantic evenings with her husband, and she was all these things to all these people. And so I grew up with this expectation that I was supposed to be able to do that. When it actually came time to try that in my 20s, that did not happen. And so I'm driving myself crazy. Did you find that that there were sometimes expectations for you that just were unattainable?
And well, yes, but also we have to be true to where we come from and what our own experience has been. And for me, I came up in a family of 7, being the oldest, and I saw my mother work not 1 but 3 jobs to make sure we all went to school. So I never saw her rest in the way that we might define rest.
Right.
So I often say all of us are women walking on a tightrope backwards, with high heels on, blindfolded, balancing the act, trying to get it right. Because remember, Grace Kelly did everything backwards.
That's all we have to do.
I certainly agree that we can certainly have it all, but it's difficult to have it all at the same time. And it behooves us to have networks of women who think like we do, who care like we do, who philosophically get it that to do it all, we need help.
Right.
But Lynn, back to your question, I think that it's about choices.
Right.
And I don't think that we can delude ourselves into saying that it's not. Whether you call it the new normal or the old normal, women have to make their own choices, and they're based on their own goals. And making choices can be difficult. And I think that you have to face up to the reality of your own situation.
I love what you said, though, because you know, when you're raising your children, maybe you don't have the most difficult job at work. Maybe you wait until the kids are a little older, and then you kind of start to pursue that. I think what my point was that we had this impression when we came out of college and got married and had a job that everything was supposed to just be perfect right from the get-go, and experience has taught us that that doesn't happen.
Right.
So
And another example.
I think that's a great.
Yes.
I didn't have children. And
would you like mine?
one of the, I mean, I was blessed. I have stepchildren, but I mean, one of the questions that I was constantly confronted with is, why don't you have children?
Right.
It was a choice that I made.
Right.
And thank God we're able to have the option to make those choices.
It was not something that I felt that I needed to be a complete woman.
Right. And so every woman has to make the choice that's right for her. And sometimes you're older when you realize what that is, you know. But what I wanted to talk to you about, Jen, is there are different ways that people can be leaders. Women can be leaders.
Right.
You know, of course, somebody could run for a public office. Someone else might assist in their PTA.
Exactly.
And that's still being a leader, or their church, or some community group.
And that goes back to what I was saying, to also re-clarify. When I was saying work or not work, that is a debate I hear all the time from women and what they struggle with. It's not my labeling at all. It's still society's. Like the Mommy War book came out, 2 years ago still, and I hear it and I listen to it, and I had this woman in my community realize early on, with our children were in the same school, and she realized how crazy and hectic my life was. And at first I could sense possibly her judging a little bit, because I'd be away, and well, who's taking care of the girls when you're away? And we're in a different stage where men do assume a role differently, I see, as fathers, rather than my father's generation or my grandfather's generation. So there is a little bit more of a give and take and a balance, and then there's more men choosing to stay at home and letting the women pursue their career. So I think we're in a balancing stage right now. But what's interesting is when they're assuming these roles, this woman said to me, "Your life is a little crazy and hectic. I'm going to make sure I feed you with all the information you need to know to where to be at the community events." So really, it's balancing each other out within our communities.
Well, the other thing that I agree with on that is we've talked about role models and finding a balance for you and doing what works at any given time. Jen actually came up with this idea, not just to be a role model to her own daughters and to other women in the business community, but to actually have dolls that exemplify how women can grow up to be leaders. So if we start with that generation, like what the Girl Scouts are doing with the next generation, tell me about the leader dolls and how they affect change.
So when I had taken my girls on this trip somewhere to see all these shows, I realized in all these shows the messages were the same that had been for generations, and there was no new messages being sent to girls, and I was really frustrated. And I also realized that there was things on the market like the brats, and I thought, isn't that kind of an oxymoron? I'm going to hand a doll called a brat to my child, but tell them to not act like that. And so I thought there needs to be something that really exemplifies who women can be today. So I started a lifestyle brand called Leader Girls. And the Leader Girls, each one has a story of her, each character has a story of her path and how she got there. So one's a media mogul, one's a .comer. So the stories of these characters teaches girls who they can be in the future, and creating new footprints and new spaces, and teaching each girl their uniqueness is their power, not what makes them powerless.
On that note, I have to take a quick break. When we come back, let's talk about women in the various leadership roles, including that of boss. Who makes a better boss, a man or a woman? Going to be surprised by my Facebook comments. Stay with us.